So let's start by reviewing some of the homeworks. First, how is the homework? Bit tough,
Yes.
but I just like I had most of the homeworks weren't really exactly what we described in the exercise, so that was a bit like unfortunate. So it's like just a second. Mark down. It's this one. Yeah. So we will start with this one. I don't know if you can see. Bigger? Just a second. Can we hide this?
Yeah, you can make it smaller.
It's like, this is a bad user experience.
Very bad.
Really, really, really bad. Just a second. So we'll start with this one. I think it's yours.
Yeah.
So this is his app.js. You can see, sorry, I will increase the font. Is it fine this way?
Yeah.
So you can see he has the constructor with some item ID. The first thing we see here is like there is a duplicate between item ID and item ID. Can you describe why it's that?
One of them be related to the program, but one of them must be related to the state.
Why? Why you should keep two? We need just one. We increment it every time. Why we keep two copies of the same ID? Because you can just increase this one, item ID plus one, item ID plus one, item ID plus one. Why you need to increase two? I'm just asking, of course, because it's your program. I'm not like, oh, why did you do that? I'm just asking.
Because we thought if something is not included in a state, it is easier to change it.
Well, depends really, because if you have something that I already have one. Yeah, Christopher. Thank you a lot. Thank you. Uh, like the idea behind the state is like you put something in the state if you want to change it and show a fresh UI. You get the idea? But the ID doesn't really like enforce. So when we change the ID, we don't care about like re-rendering because the ID is not used somewhere in the UI.
Because of this, I use this one.
Yeah. So there is no point in putting it here. You can just have this one and just say plus one and put it when you add. So when you add list, you just say ID this dot item ID plus one. There is no need to put it in the state. And the to-do has already an ID in the state because in this array you will have an object with an ID and text and
I push it.
yeah, exactly. So there is no point in having one ID in the state here. Every to-do has its own ID and it's already in the state.
But if it is outside the array,
Yeah.
handling it is easier.
No, but you can handle this one. You already have this one, item ID. You can just increment this one. You don't need to increment this one.
It is only for showing the HTML for see on the page. For iterating, I am easier to use some a variable that I can easily handle it or without render.
Yeah, which is this one. Yeah, let's get back. Sorry, it's so if you let's say for example here, let's say you want to add something here. Here you say this dot state dot id. No, you say this dot item id plus one, and you increment it, and you say this dot item id plus plus. It will be incremented, and next time you can use it, and it will be incremented. But there is no point. There is no point. Like try to minimize the stuff that goes into your state. Try to have as minimum state as possible, because having a lot of state is also confusing and it will cause a lot of problems. So try to go with like a minimum amount of state. You get the idea? It's try to go. This is the first thing. The second thing is this one. So when you delete the list, when you delete an item, remember deleting an item? We go to the array and we pick the ID that we want to delete, and we keep them all except that ID. Remember that?
This is only for refreshing after I
Yeah, but
delete something.
the
Refresh the value of the input value.
yeah, but as we said before, the input should be controlled. The input should be driven by the state. I don't know if you remember that. The input, we should keep its value in the state. So if we want to do anything to the input, validate it, delete it, add something to it, we change it in the state. And the input will automatically reflect and take the state. I don't know if you remember. So I really don't want to see like this in your code, honestly. Like it's not bad, but it's just like mixing two paradigms that will make your code so much difficult to reason about. So much difficult. Because after that, if your application is huge, you go to another part and you see like the input is disappearing. Okay, so we saw that there is get an element by ID. It's like we are back all the same like couplet page, which is like really kind of bad. So you could have said here like in this dot state, if you had two keys here and you have date and task, you can say date tasks and date and task and like make them empty like we did last time. Is it clear?
Also, like we also talk about, like, if not necessary, don't touch the DOM. You're definitely changing the DOM here.
Yeah. Don't do that.
And
When you think about doing that, it's wrong. You should like approach your solution from another angle.
so maybe you should ask yourself, like, is it really necessary that I touch the DOM? If not, that means like that this approach is like it's wrong, right? And also, like he said, this kind of like when people are looking at your code and look at that and then saw you were directly like changing the DOM, then they would suspect, does this guy really understand React? Right?
So it's really important to just operate on your state. Like we did last time. We operate on the state. And so if you want to delete an item, you go to the list of items, you delete one, and this will produce new UI.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't operate on the UI, you operate on the data that will generate the UI. And every time you have a fresh UI. So you don't necessarily think about your HTML and the DOM and event listeners, no. You only think about your data, your props, your state, and that will generate your UI. This is the really powerful concept that you should get along with. Is this clear what I'm explaining here? Please stop me if something is not clear. Yeah, we have this one, set ID. Like you are only doing this ID dot plus one. So there is no point in copying it in the state. You know what I mean? You are incrementing something and putting it in the state. Just use this thing. Why you need to copy it again? Just use this one. You know what I mean? You don't like if you have a car and you have another car, just go with one car. You don't need to get your stuff from this car to this car and go with it and have two, and you need to change them and maintain them both. Because now we need to keep this in track with this. Just use this one. Make sense? Yeah. You remember on change? Are you familiar with onBlur? OnBlur, so there's onFocus and onBlur. This is not related to React. OnFocus means when you give an element of focus. You're not typing, but it's focused. You can type. OnBlur, it's like when the element loses the focus. You get the idea? So for example, if there is a button, like here, now I don't want to click it. Yeah, but for example, this one is normal. But when I click it, now it's focused. How they know to do this styling? Because it's focused. When I leave it, again, it's onBlur. For example, this one, it's on focus now. And onBlur. Even like if you say, I don't know.
You don't click it.
No, you click it, that's hover. But when you click an element or you tap to it, you can also tap. Like you can see, the pink. Now it's focused. I can do this. You can see. Even though I didn't click it, I'm just tapping to it and I'm focusing on it. So when an element,
While you finish your name,
yeah.
so it's finished. After that, the program will get your data.
No, but the program should save your data even when you are typing. This is what discussed about. Like,
But imagine that you, while you're typing something, you are searching URL.
yeah.
You are something typing. After that, the URL will continue from your previous data.
But still, saving the data. So having an input.
If you finish, after that, program will get your information and continue.
But this is a different thing than saving the input value. Saving the input value is something, and doing something with that input is something else. I can say on change here.
On change is active while you type something.
Yeah, when you are typing, I want to change the state. But I don't want to add an item unless you click the button. That's a different thing. Doing an action and typing, that's two different things. But what I want, the purpose of the on change and the value, for example, now if now your state is not holding the value unless you leave. We want to keep this. We want the idea that you keep in mind is like we want this input to not have any state. We want this input to be controlled by this piece of state. So whenever I change this piece of state, this input should reflect, and not the opposite. So this input is controlled by my state. After that, when you click the button, when you say on blur, you do something, you search, that's a different thing. But what I'm talking about is just the string, the value. I just want to keep the string in my state updated. What I do with it, search with it, wait for it, on blur, on focus, that's a different thing. You know what I mean? So this is really important. To pass a value and to pass an on change, so you can control.
Also here, I think when you run the project, you will also have a warning in the console that's like the element is not controlled.
I don't think, because it's not passing on change. It's passing on blur.
But it's also not passing value.
Yeah, so the input is controlling itself.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
You get the idea? So this one is not really serving for anything.
Mm-hmm.
Which is sort of bad. But it's really good to experience, like to try. Like this is a really good way to learn. Try all what your mind will be telling you, do this, do this, do that. Try, and after that you can discuss your code and say this is a good approach, this is a bad approach, this is a good approach. But there's nothing wrong about you. It's just like you should try your ideas, because the sooner you discover that the idea doesn't work and this works, this is when you get experience. No, but knowing that this works, this doesn't work, this works, doesn't work. This is really good. So I'm not reviewing your code. We do this even at work. At work, we review work like this. There's someone who's like looking at my code and commenting. Like I can show you, but there's people commenting my code and I comment. And it doesn't matter how senior you are. Someone should accept your code, or two people, to be able to learn. You know what I mean? So reviewing code is nothing personal. Reviewing code is like we build something and let's check if it works. What do we do there? The same thing here.
How did you come up with using on blur instead of on change? Because we taught on change, but we didn't teach on blur.
I have with the book it uses on blur.
Yeah.
In the book?
Yeah.
Some books.
In the book. No.
Some books. I read about the React.
Mm-hmm.
From the one of them, I use one approach, another one I use one approach. While I have a question, I search some books and look at them.
Yeah, that's really good. That's really good. That's really you will need on blur.
Yeah.
I work with it. You will need it. It's good, but it's just not for this purpose.
Mm.
You know what I mean? It's just if the task was let's say the task was like whenever you finish typing on something, it will do an update. Yes, on blur will be really helpful. It's like when you are typing, you move from the input. On blur, you add something. Yes, but the task was like to actually add something when you click the button.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So it's not. There's nothing wrong. It's just like a mismatch.
For example, I would also use on blur to validate the data, because when you pull it out, the data is already there, so you can validate.
Yeah, stuff like that. But it's really better to put it in the state, so even when you want to validate, you don't need to reach for. So this is. Yeah. These some things. Yeah. Here, for example, you could have used this factoring to get the date tasks from the state, just like this structure. But that's up. That's of course up to you.
I'm just curious, where did you learn this pattern, the formatting, what's it called, like code style?
It's called the style.
Uh-huh.
You are speaking me about format of the.
Yeah, I'm just curious, where did you learn this style?
I can show you. Advanced search.
Cool.
Okay. It just looks like very special, I'll say.
Bind. Remember?
Yeah.
Please try to avoid using bind. Just pass a function like we did last time. Function expression. Just a function straight away.
It's attached the index to function.
Yeah, you can pass a function straight away here, like doing this.
Mm-hmm.
You can do this.
I know, but I have read some approach, and in the end, they suggested use bind. This is what, because with bind you can attach two-way bind. You can attach you can attach one value to function, and again, while you use function, you can use that value in the
Yes, but bind it will limit you and it will cause a lot of confusion because you are changing the this here, and if you are in a context where the this is not available, you need to pass null or something. So use bind when you need it. Don't like say don't. It's called premature optimization. Trying to, I will use this because maybe in the future there is one case. No, use the simplest form, which is like the. But of course you are welcome to use bind, but it's just confusing.
Yeah.
And it had a really bad history in React. A lot of people in interviews and stuff, if they will see you using bind, they will have like, oh, that's not good.
Also, when you search on Google or anything, check the date. It's very important because it changes a lot, like through years.
Yeah, just 5 months or 6 months ago, React changed a lot, so keep updated. Other than that, it's good, except for example, editing was a bit off because yeah, edit was supposed to, when you click a button, you change it to an input.
It's only get the information from that row and put it in the input box.
But you should not put it in the input box.
Because you want to edit that row.
But you should edit it like straight away next to it. Like we discussed for the homework.
I understand what you mean, but I wanted to do everything by myself.
No, you should do it by yourself. Just like try to follow the approach of the homework. Because there's tricks and stuff we want to push you to do in the homework. You get the idea? You can of course try. Like this is really good what you did, like moving down to the input. But the input was the homework was designed in a specific way to push you to do some tricks to learn more. You get the idea? So this is like the idea. So it just it's
just delete and put information on the input on the top.
Yeah, but that's not exactly what the homework said. The homework said that when you click it, it will change to an input. And you can type there and update it straight away. Make sense? So please try to stick with the homework because there's like hidden like gems behind the homework. Like we are pushing you to do like specific. Even though it's difficult, but it will pay off.
Or if you really have more time, then you can do two approaches.
Yeah, exactly. Like your approach and the homework approach. Like that would be really good. I'm not sure it's this one. This is just the bind we talked about, and this is. This is the your homework. This is the second one. It's also like the idea of the homework. I don't know if you got me really well last time. It's like to search GitHub and bring a list of It's fine. Mike, thank you. The idea was to search GitHub, just to show you again. This is the URL that I said you should use. And for example, when you type Yunus, it will give you a list of users, like the to-dos, and you say items and you display them all. You just get items of 0, of login, and type, or I don't know, a score, or something like that. You just display the name of the user. You can even get the image if you want.
Look, if is it possible, please copy the link of the URL that you were. Please.
Yeah.
And share it.
I already shared it here.
It's probably because
Seriously?
yeah, I did
Yes,
it.
yeah.
But I described the whole homework. You can.
Maybe too many links. The last one.
I'm sorry, but yeah, I'm sorry. But there is you who did it, so that's good. But of course it's fine.
If you don't know, you should ask.
Yeah, exactly. Like
You shouldn't just like ignore it.
It was in the documentation. So it's not.
okay,
I feel like I missed it because I was.
okay,
Mhm.
makes sense. So yeah, so that's just one thing. So it's so there is no point in storing these. You can just have an array of users like items, and you put it here. So there is no. You're just searching for one.
Yeah.
This is the idea, but it's the idea to display them all. So you have component did mount, and it's like user here. Because you are calling it ended.
As a user for searching the URL.
Yeah, but do you remember what we discussed last time about lifecycle? It's like lifecycle, like constructor, like component did mount, like render. It's life cycles. It's controlled by React. React will call it. You don't call it. We don't call it render. Did we call it render in our app? We never did. It's by React. So calling did mount by yourself, you should not do that. Because it's a life cycle. It's an event in your life. You don't do it. It's caused in your life. So this happened after React will render. So you cannot say React render like after render again.
No, while you select something, also the loading will work.
Yeah, but the idea is like you create another function, you put this on it, and you call it. You don't call component did mount. Because in bigger project, component did mount will do a lot of logic that you cannot just call. Because it has like specific timing. So the whole idea about component mount is like it will run once after render. So you cannot just call it after dynamically. Because it's a life cycle, you should respect that. Otherwise, you will have a lot of problems with React. In this simple example, it doesn't, but it does. So the idea is like to refactor this to a function. You can call it here, and you can also call it here. But you cannot call the did mount this way. Make sense? And also here, it's better if, as you said, an array, and you set the array here. This is it. Yeah. And this is really important. Lifecycle are not meant to be used by you. You should not call a lifecycle. React calls the lifecycle. As we said before, component did mount was called, and render was called, and component with end mount was called. If you remember the console log that we did. So React was calling that. It's handled by React, not by us. So it's really important to keep that in mind. Any questions about his homework? No. Sorry if I took it really serious, but it's it's really good for all of us.
Yeah.
This is another one. Yeah.
Why are you laughing?
I will not say anything. I just highlight your name. It's like you look at me. It's like exactly like if I would do this after stand up.
Tell me what you do.
But I don't think. Oh. So this is so he did delete all to dos. That's good. Delete all to dos, check all to dos, and check all to dos, which is just checking that would be all false or all true. Edit to do is just
didn't implement that one.
Yes.
Edit to do because when I was creating, I click edit, it changes to input, right? But everything changes to input.
Yeah.
I wanted to.
You know why? Because everything changed to input.
Because I think I used only one.
You used one here.
Yes. So should I have given a key to each individual?
You can do that, or you can go with a better idea. If the item, the list item, not the list item, one item.
Yeah.
It's its own component. It's just one component. And there is if there is 5 items, there is 5 components rendered. Yes. So in every component you have a state, and you can toggle it. So you can keep its editing inside the list item. So every list item has its own state. You can go with that. Yeah, but you've got the mistake that he did, kind of. So, but except that it's good. Yeah, it's good. Except that. Let's say. Yeah. So this is a component. We have state, user, request state. It's empty string. Request state is empty string. It should describe the state. Is it loading? Is it what? So being empty doesn't really help a lot. What does empty mean? The application is not running. The user is sleeping. What does it mean? We have a component did mount. We have will mount. We discussed last time. This should not be used. This is almost deleted from React. So this should not be used, and this one can be just used to this one. In some cases, you can do it here. You can just load for the constructor. Component will mount should not be used, but anyways, it's just setting the state to be loading. And yeah, just initialize your state with a meaningful and helpful values. So if the user is an array, don't initialize it with an object. Either put it as undefined or as an array. You should the value of your initial state should be meaningful. If request state will hold loading or done or error, it should not be empty. Or does empty describe something for you? So this is really important. Give values that describes exactly what the variable really holds. We have a component did mount. That means after the render, we say get users. Get users is a function that will return a fetch. This dot state, after it's done, we say request done, and we set the user. And here we say if request is loading, we do this. Otherwise, it's not loading. We render this. Make sense? It's simple. It's good. But not exactly what we described. Because what we described is when you search, when you type something, for example, you type Yunus, you click the search button, you will do a request. This is what we described in the homework. So the homework was not to load the users first, or the GitHub users first. It was to actually search for them. So you can see filtering users here. So what's happening here is we have a local filter. So when you search, we just if we have 10 items, if we search, we just filter these 10 items to search for the specific name, which is not really what we asked for. We asked for actually searching the API. So every time, if you type you do this. If you type Yunus, you do this. You get the idea?
It's a bit confusing, this one.
Why?
I didn't reach the homework, this part of homework.
Okay.
I read the GitHub version about it, and it says use a hint, use Postman.
Yeah, that's to discover the API.
Okay, that's kind of too much. When first I saw it, I was thinking okay, I need to go to Postman and compare the data page with React right now, and it's like.
No, but we didn't mention that. We will be explicit.
Exactly. But
It's explicit. It's like just like use Postman. So you go to a Postman, you copy your. It's like doing it here, but Postman is much better. So you can see items and which one is an array. This is the idea. Sorry for the confusion, but if you want you to do like I would never like have hidden information. Like I'm saying Postman to go to no, like that's not.
But it just was confusing.
Yeah,
Plus,
it makes
like,
sense.
the searching part itself is confusing as well. Like basically you are saying we have an empty page with only search input.
Yeah, like Google.
And so we search for something.
Yeah, like Google, for example.
Okay. That was like a bit confusing for users, you know.
Well, but something like Google, like you are with an input and a button, and you type to search.
Yeah.
It's like in the GitHub. GitHub also has a search function.
Yeah, like here.
You can just like type a name and then enter, and then it's searching. The difference is it's searching through repo, user, blah blah, all the metrics.
Yeah.
But what we ask is you search only the user.
Okay.
But again, like if you feel like the requirement is confusing, you should communicate.
Yeah, but as I said, I've never reached to do this one. So I never asked you to reach that one.
Okay.
It's fine. It's fine, dude. It's fine. Yeah. So that was one. That's it. Yes. So this is another homework. We have render. Render is describing search and just checking for loading if it's loading or showing it. Make sense? Pretty decent render. Let's check the lifecycle. This is how I read the component. I always go to the render of the component. After that, I read the lifecycle. This is my approach of reading component. Constructor. We have state, users empty, request start, input value. This is to hold the input value, and this is for thing. I did something yesterday because I.
Wow.
Just do not. Yeah. So you can say Yunus search.
But yeah, the receipt it shows in the beginning when that's found and that's wrong. And
Yeah.
I don't know what to do with the constant.
You
Before
can.
you start searching.
Yeah, you can like just. You can say, for example, yeah, you have request start here. You can say if request equals start, type something.
I have problem with conditional rendering actually. Because somehow I used turner operator before and then I didn't find out how to do the conditional.
Oh yeah, so it's like nested ternary,
Yeah,
which is
because
really
it
bad.
was- yeah.
To
Like,
do,
so
yeah.
I didn't do it.
Yeah, that's good. But what you can do is like just do an and. Just do request start and render this. Request loading and render this. You can say just ends. Like this joint.
Yeah, and then it didn't work.
No, whatever, but to separate ends.
Okay.
Like you do like this. Loading and component. And you do another one. Start and component. Why? Because technically, if it's loading, it cannot be start. And if it's start, so you can do separate ifs.
Yeah.
This is the idea. It's like disjoint set.
But it's right.
It's like an and. Or you can do an if and put it in a method outside. That's up to you. But yeah. But that's fine. That's sort of an optimization. But it's that's good that you thought about that. But the idea is now whenever there's a search, and the search has a button. When you click it, we invoke this one, search button handler. we take the input value from the state, what the user typed. Okay? And we say this dot get users. Get users is this one. It's setting state
It's okay, right?
and it's fetching. Make sense? And it's returning. It's fine. But one thing is like you're setting state here, but you're not setting it here. You're setting it inside. But after that, you say then and you set it here. My advice is to keep it uniform. So either you move this set state to be here, or you move this set state to be under here. Here you say it then and you put the set state. But having set state here and another set state there makes it difficult to reason about. You got the idea? So just like try to put the set states together. But there is nothing wrong in putting set state inside a helper method. But just put them both together or separate. Make sense? And this is a dead mount. It's saying request is done. So you should remove this because the request is never done. And we never started the request.
I didn't want to do this, but then it would show loading.
Yeah, because what you should do is like, if it starts, do this. If it's loading, do this. So you have to separate. Any questions? Questions? No. Let's check. Sources. Search your username, UMS. Search. It's saying searching, that's confused me. Okay. Is it searching or not?
No.
No?
While typing, it's appearing searching. When you click, it's turning to loading. I mean,
But is it searching what I'm typing? Is it searching?
No.
No? Is it searching or not?
Actually, it should go maybe from while searching, maybe it's invoked from the. I didn't put the function over there.
Yeah.
It may be confused. That's where is it? The list.
We can check it here.
Here, I sent.
It's fine, it's fine. It's fine. But he's doing the same. He's saying like he's a.
The header input change handler.
Yeah.
I didn't put the function over there.
Okay.
It's just if I put the function in that input change handler, automatically will invoke.
It will search
search and send the request to the and it's trying to fetch.
Yeah, every time you're typing.
I didn't make it like this.
Yeah, it's fine. But just like
when you click it, it is invoking.
Yeah, and that was what was the homework. But what I was saying is just like when you are typing, you should not like print searching because you're not.
Yeah,
it's just a bit
that's
because I was waiting. It's like. Like I was like waiting. It's searching.
I didn't set state over there. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a page. It's loading.
Yeah.
And it's never loading. Just like, but yeah, it's fine. Let's check the render. He has a header, and the header of course is like controlling the input and stuff. And here he has the things. You have nested ternary here. You have a ternary inside the ternary, which is like it's really difficult for me to read that. Like until now, I find it really difficult to read ternary. Ternary inside ternary. It's like if this is true, you go to this. If this is true, you go to this. Like, sorry, you go to this.
No, I'm coming to the second one. If it is true, the first one.
Yes, you try this one.
Yeah. else if is the request state.
Yeah, you go to this one.
Every request state is else if.
Yeah. You could
For me,
you could do it with an else if.
Yeah.
It's fine. It's fine. It's just like necessary. For example, in my company, we don't allow necessary. Your code will not work. The browser will say boom. It's like an error. You cannot run the code with ternary necessary.
Else if is good.
Yeah, but you can say an and. You can just use, you can do an and instead. It's like loading and loading and loading. But we have the renderer, we have the did mount, we have did update, we have
Maybe you should give API. I should put the question mark. I was thinking that
this one.
when you fetch the API,
Yeah.
after user, we need to put question mark and input. So I was thinking that we are searching the specific user.
It's fine, it's fine. But I got you, but it's fine. So we have because you get to do all the steps. So even that it's a bit off, but it's fine because you get to do the steps necessary. So we have get to dos. It's called every time we search, click the button.
Yes.
Not search, click the button. We say fetch, then response.json. Then you could have actually extracted this outside and returned it to JSON because this returns a promise. And so instead of nesting the function inside, you can just put it outside. You get the idea? Like we do every time. We say if body is not found, we say alert not found and set state. Else this set state items request. What's the purpose of this one and this one? It's because you wanted to do the loading start and stuff. But yeah. I mean, here's just separate function to handle when it will start, when it's searching. Any questions about this? No? I think I reviewed most of the homework that I had the chance to review. Of course, not all of them, I'm sorry. But do you have any questions?
How can you use the set state inside the will update?
Component will mount?
Update.
Will update? Component will update.
Yeah.
It will be removed.
Can you?
Yeah, but it will be, you should not use that lifecycle. That lifecycle, component will mount and component will update, it should not be used.
Okay, this update, for example.
We'll receive props.
Yeah, but did update, you are already receiving the fresh props and fresh state. There is no point because like when your component when just when did update is called means your component is already updated. It's coming from an update. So if you want to make another state, it will be updated again. You can do that, but that's like reaching for the dawn. There is something wrong with it because technically here you have everything necessary. If you want to do something here, you should think before updating it. You can use set state in component update. It's fine. You can use it, but it's really wrong because it will do a double update. You get the idea? It's coming from an update. You call set state. It's like, and that's really bad. But you can do it, but it's not good practice because your component is already coming from a lifecycle update. Make sense? Questions? No?
What location do you use your find functions? Can you give some details?
Yes, every time you have a function, like let's say I have an object, const object, I will put the console without the output, and I will use console.clear. I have an object with a name, say Yunus, okay, and let's say I have a method called print or say hi. Okay, it's a function. You wanted to do a neural function or what?
I was just wondering bind.
This is an example to use the bind.
Okay.
This is because I need to build an object to show you exactly how it works. So say hi, it's a function. Let's say console.log hello. Let's use template strings. Hello and say this.net. Make sense? So now we can say object dot say hi. It prints hello units. This is really small example. Clear for everyone. Let's say I have another object. Object 2. And it has a name. Strange. Okay? Let's say I want to use this function for this one. Because usually when I say hi, I prefix it with an object. And it will print hello units. I want to change the this inside this say hi to be this object. I say dot bind. I give it the object. So I say object 2. Const new say hi. So bind returns a new function. Now if I will call that function, it will be hello strange. Because I changed the this to be this object that I bound here. But I didn't change this function. Bind creates another function. It's like concat and returns it. So the this inside new say hi, it's wherever I passed here.
And when you print just say hi, does it come
If I would say object.say hi,
yeah, then it comes out in this, right?
yes, because we didn't change it. Say hi doesn't change. It creates another function.
So you just really grow the.
It creates a copy of the function, change the this inside it. This is the role of a bind.
If we have 2 names or 3 names in object 2.
What do you mean? This
If we have multiple.
like
names.
this?
Yeah.
You cannot, because this one will override this one. The same key. It's like an array. When you say 0 and you change 0,
Oh yeah.
it will be
If we have another
key
key,
test.
we like when we are defining the new say hi
Yeah.
object, do we have to go object 2 like dot bind dot parentheses object 2 dot name or dot test or
No, you just pass the context. So this will be the context of this function. Because this is the context was
it's dot name yeah.
so this if I would say this, so it's just because it's not name.
Yeah.
So I'm saying my context dot name.
So you mean that we should have a common key between the two functions?
No, I really don't mean this. What I mean is just if you have a function that it's typed to an object, you can change it. This is what I'm saying. It's not related to what's inside. You get the idea? I have this dot name inside. I'm doing a request. I'm doing a fetch. It's not my issue. What I'm saying is, if you have this inside a function, and you have another object, you can change the context of the first function. This is what I'm saying.
But in this case, if the object 2 didn't have a key name,
Yeah.
you couldn't have printed.
No, it will not. But that's your issue. Now, if you want to reuse a function, you need to respect what's inside it. That's like code reuse. You know what I mean? Another confusing thing is if, for example, set timeout Let's give it a function, and we call, let's give it a function, object dot say hi. Make sense? After 1 second. It's printing hello JSPN output. Why?
What the hell is that?
So JSPN output is just so the idea is there is an object that has a property name called JSPN output, which is this one, window.name. But this doesn't matter. What matters? It's not what's here. What matters is my name is Yunus. It should be Yunus. This is what matters. Anything else is wrong. What we care about, it should be Yunus.
Yes.
You know what I mean? This is just because of JSPN has a string special. But why it's not Yunus? This is what we are asking about. We don't care what's the alternative, but why it's not. Because when you say object.sayHi, you are dereferencing the you're not calling the function. So it's like saying this. It's like new func. It's object.sayHi. Sorry. Let's say we're not calling the function, we're just assigning it to a new variable. If we say new func, you can see what it's doing. Why? Why did so now sort of the this changed? The this changed because I'm not doing this anymore. So when I call object.sayHi, there's a context before the function. There's object dot. So that this will be what I called before, the object. But in this case, there is no object dot. So that this is not this object anymore. The thing that you should retain from this rule is, it doesn't matter how you define the function. What matters is how you call it. How you call a function defines the this inside it, not how you define it.
So if we go.
So it doesn't matter how we define it here. It matters how you call it.
Yeah,
And if you call it with the set timeout, that means that you are not saying object.sayHi. Because the set timeout function is like this. Let's say this is a function called set timeout inside the JavaScript. It will take a callback and a time. So this say hi will be this callback. So after it's like wait for some time. After that, do this. So your function is not called by using this. It's called the same way like this. So it's like dereferencing the from the object. This is why we don't see the proper name. How to solve this?
It's confusable. Normally it sees these objects, but the names it shows the Windows object. Right?
Yeah. Because if there is no this binded, if it's called on the top level, this will be the window. So if you do this, it's the window. You get the idea? If there is no this by default, it will be the window. But that's only for, I think. Yeah, it's still like this, but you get the idea. This will be the window because it's not binded to anything. How to solve this? You can use a bind. So we say object.sayHi.bind to my object. This will create a new function that it's bounded to this. Now I can say hello Yunus after 1 second. These questions are really so frequent in interviews. You got the idea?
Are you recording?
Actually, I'm not sure.
Yes, yes.
I am this. I did it in the beginning. So this is how bind works. Just to answer your question. It's really important because it's confusing sometimes. So when you pass a function to an event listener and stuff, it will change your this. This will be who's calling the function. But if you do an arrow function, the whole story changes. The arrow function will be bound to wherever it's defined. So this will be always this object.
You cannot combine.
No. It's always the global this.
It's goes to
Yeah, to the window.
the other
Yes.
scope, right?
Yeah. Because it's not defined inside a class or something. If it's defined in class, it would be like this. But just to not go deep with the binding, but if you want to explore more, go and read about it. This is just a small foundation to how to. Yeah, just to keep in mind. Any more questions about? Yeah.
So it's better avoid in React, better avoid binding in React.
There is the easy shortcut. If you are really good with binding and like just use it, but it's a matter of preferences. Like I use arrow functions. I used to be a hater of arrow functions, but now I'm using them.
So it's
simple.
connected, right? If it's better to avoid binding, so you use more arrow functions.
Yeah. This is why I was suggesting doing use arrow function. You can forget about the whole binding. So if there is like, for example, now you know about it, but most of the people, even like university graduate, they don't know about it. So if you get someone, a junior developer in your company or something, and he doesn't know bind, he will be like, what's this? Especially this concept doesn't exist in other languages. I think it's mostly JavaScript. So people who are like in university using Java stuff, they find this concept really strange. And it's really strange because they spent 3 years doing Java or something. So their mind is really stuck with that mindset. For example, you are sort of fresh. You've just been programming a few months ago. So your mind is still dynamic. You're not like loyal to any principle. Like everything is new, everything is fresh to your mind. So you don't prefer this over this. But for some people, when you do it for 3 years, 4 years, you really. So sometimes, if you have 10 years of experience learning new programming language, it will be difficult than if you all have less years of experience. Because your mind starts to be really hooked in a specific way. Exactly, like I think this way. It's like imagine 10 years doing it. So it's. But of course, it doesn't hold. This is why it's every time good to experience with new programs and try new things. So you keep the mindset about the fresh mind, and, not stuck with the.
I just forgot the React concept.
What?
We were always using the JavaScript concept, DOMs.
Okay.
And suddenly you come out with the virtual DOMs. What does the and
Yeah, it's
components, something else to understand the way of the React, and then okay,
definitely.
you react.
Um, yes. Yeah. This is the code from last time. Let's try and just not get. I don't want to spend a lot of time with it, but just like to give you some hints, just to like I don't know, do more sort of exercises on it. But yeah. So let's try. I want to the add button. The update. Sorry, not the add. We already have an add. We didn't like. So we go to the list. We have the item. You can see, I guess. We have the item. The item is here. We remove these useless things. We used to use them, but just to show you stuff. But now we don't really need the life cycle. Yeah. So now we will add a button here. Let's call it edit. Okay. It's an edit button. It doesn't do anything. It's just an empty function. Okay. So now, what I really want is when I click the button to make this an input. When I click it again, to make this a text. Make sense? So, so the idea is like I need the piece of state to describe that, as we said before. We cannot just change that. So the piece of state, we have a lot of places where we can do that. If we open, for example, the index, index has a. It's really the sun is really thin. Can you do something about it? No. I cannot see the screen honestly. But yeah. No, it's fine. You will suffer. No.
But I don't have to see my screen.
Yeah, that doesn't help. It's fine.
That'll work.
What?
That will work.
Yeah, that's smart. I don't think this is long enough. It's not long enough.
That can also come. Like
TV?
Screen social. Yeah. Yeah, it's fine.
No, it's big, but I still like it. It's definitely a better thing. So we said that we have the we need a piece of state to represent our state. Are we updating? Are we not? And we have a lot of places where we can do that, and there is nothing wrong or right. We can, for example, here when we have the object, we can say is editing next to text and stuff and ID. This is one option. Of course, we cannot put it here. It's editing. We can do it in one case if we can only edit one at a time. So when you click update, you don't put like true or false here. You put the ID. So if you put tree like this, means the to do with the ID tree, it's editing. If you press at the same time update on edit on the first one, we change this to 1, and this will not be updated anymore. This will be unrolled. So it depends. Depends really. Are you allowed to edit all of them at the same time? Only one at the same time? Depends. But of course, if you want to store true or false, you cannot store true or false here. You need to store in information about which one is edited because you only have one. So you need to point to which one exactly is being edited. Make sense? There's also another approach, which is going to the item, as I said before, and putting it here. So every item has its own state, if it's editing or not. Make sense?
Yeah.
Let's try to do that. So we will say state. We didn't have state before. Let's say is editing or is edit. Say false. By default is false. Okay?
Yeah.
Now, what?
By default, it should be false.
By default should be false. By default, I'm not editing. And now every item has its own is edit. Because this is, we are rendering multiple of these items. So every item has its own is edit. Make sense? So we have here. Let's say change. Let's say toggle edit. Say this dot set state is edit is not this dot state. Okay. Make sense? And we put it here now. This dot we don't need to pass it as an arrow. So if we click, well, of course there is a problem. Problem edit. Let's debug. Oh yeah, we forget the key. Like this is not relevant, but we need a key. So I would say key hyphen. Yes, we don't have a key anymore. Yes, I really like to see like red lines, something in there. So set state. Oh, awesome. We have an error. Set cannot read set state or undefined. That means that the this here it doesn't refer to this class anymore. Why? Because this is a normal function. Remember, this is like doing function, and it's passed to the enclave of the button. So who's calling my toggle edit? Is it me? No, the button is calling it. It's like the set time off. So the this will be the button itself. Or it's undefined because it's strict mode. But the this is not my item anymore. So I can either do this. Yes? Or I can go here and say bind to this. This at least will not make the error. Make sense? So we can see here it's
What did you find?
just a second. So this now, am I not saving? Yes, at least now that this is correct. Make sense? And the way I did it is by binding it here, like the way you. So this is why confusing. Bind is used to change this, and you use it to pass around.
Binding to sending some valuable function.
Yeah. So there's a lot of like multiple applications of it. But if you want to just send, just try to send in a simple way, because bind introduce a whole new like concept. So let's remove the bind here, and let's say narrow here. And we will still have. Make sense? Now what we need? What we really need now is to have this span to change to yeah. The first thing I will just remove it. I will remove this enclave because before we were having like two. We don't want that. We want short code. So let's do this. So I will take something from the state. I will say const. I would say is editing. Is edit. So I took is edit from the state. Now I can do it. Now what I can say is if is edit. We're under an input. Okay? Yes. Otherwise, we're under so we can switch in between now. And we can have multiple of them being edited.
Yes, and the other thing. When you are editing, you don't expect the text to disappear. So what I did was I put.
No, but yeah, of course you should put the value there in the input.
But it wasn't changing.
Yes, because you need another piece of state to represent that value. Because that's a separate value. So here we will say edit input value. We initialize it with empty string. Make sense? Or we can initialize it with undefined. That's better. We are good. It's undefined. So now, what we will do is go to this input, and we say value is this. We can just take it from here. Edit input value. And we will say a default value. If we are not setting that value, we will set it to item.title. This one.
What if you don't bring the value?
If you don't what?
The value.
This value?
Yeah. And you use default value straight away.
It will still show.
And then you can edit it.
Well, you can edit it, but you can edit it. But we want the input value and the input state to be in our state. Now I can edit it, but I have no way to see what's going on inside the input. So now I need a piece of state, which is this one, to represent that. This is why I said value. So what I said is like the value is edit input, but I know that in the beginning edit input is undefined. So put a default value if it's undefined.
I was trying to find the value
Props.
Yes, the props of input, and I never found default value. Strange.
They only show it to us. It's like there's a document 2 years plus of React. Show him these props.
Item.title in the value, and that's why I was not being able to edit it because it was fixed like that.
Makes sense. You can do another thing. You can do this. You can say edit value or item.title.
Yes, and can you edit it now?
Now to edit it, we need the onChange.
Yeah.
To change the input. So whenever you type, we change this.
Then I mean, can you delete some from it and then add something?
This one?
Yeah.
You cannot because we are not hooking it to an imp. We need the onChange now. When we will add the onChange, we'll be able to edit. You need an onChange. So you give it a value that is fixed, and you give it an onChange. Whenever it changes, you change the state, it will receive a new value. And the cycle goes on.
So when you give it on change, then it nullifies the
every key. So
key.
yeah.
Okay.
So here I would say onChange. Edit input handler. This edit input handler. Or just
And you are using that input handler we used before, right? The component.
no.
The method. Or you're going to write a new.
I will going to write another one.
Can't you use the old one?
But the old one is responsible for another input. So now I have two inputs coupled to each other, even though that they do two separate things, which is really bad. So don't try to prioritize, oh, I want to reuse all the code. That's really bad. Sometimes just write a fair amount of code so we don't couple your stuff. This input is for adding to-dos, and this input is for changing and editing. There's no point. And I will get your point if the other input was like 50 lines of code. It's just one line of code. There's no point in reusing it. So we will do this. And we say this dot set state. We get an event here. We say edit input value. This, sorry, edit target value.
I just was confused. You are not combining, like you are not having your function in the inside the GS.
No,
file.
it's inside the list.js.
Yeah, I thought we have to put it inside. But
Well, you don't need, for example, the you remember the
I'm having trouble with connecting the list, like the list state, to the.
you remember the input. You remember the this one that we had here. Is this state is index.js? No, this state is in the header. If you can see here, this is index.js. It doesn't have the input state. The input state is in the header.
Yeah,
Why?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I never.
Because we don't need it in the index.js. If we need it, we can hoist it up, send it up. But at least now, for example, let's say I'm building now. Of course, I'm not a robot, I cannot predict. Let's say I will have a problem. I cannot keep this here. Index.js needed to do something. I'll just refactor my code and move it up. This is the cycle when you build the React applications. You put the state low and you keep pushing it up until you satisfy all the components.
What do you mean by pushing it up?
Means like so let's say we have index,
Yes,
rendering header.
yes.
Pushing it up means moving it from the header to like the upper components,
Yeah, which
and
is-
moving it up and up.
Question please.
So you are saying we should have a state inside the inside GS.
Inside the index, they are all JS. Inside index.js, they are all JavaScript files. This is index.js and this is list.js. It's index.js.
Index is inside the
I'm just confused because they are all there's no
Yeah.
CSS here.
yeah.
So, like initially, I put it in the so the input, for example. Initially, I put it in the header,
Hmm.
which is like under the index.js, under the app.
So basically, if I want to have a function that uses the state in the index, then I have to have the whole thing.
It's indexed. It's like you move stuff up. This is what I'm saying in the hierarchy.
Yeah, yeah,
But until now, we didn't have a problem.
yes.
So this is why we start like in the lower phase. But for example, the to-dos, the items here,
Hmm.
I cannot keep it inside the list because I need to edit it and delete it and stuff. I cannot do that from inside the list. Otherwise, the string that we type in the header, I will not be able to add it to this list.
Yeah.
So this is why we have the parent to coordinate them both. Make sense?
It's options.
And I have an like the header. Can you go to the header?
In the header.
How can I access this input value?
From the index.js?
No, this header. Maybe I want to access it in list. This input value.
Yeah. So
Just check it, get it in list.
you cannot do that
Okay.
because it's local to the header. Unless you do one thing. For example, here we are saying click handler. When you click the button, we're saying this.prop.add item. So I'm calling a callback from the parent. So the parent is passing me this add item, and I'm giving the parent the input value. So I control when I share, but the parent cannot access my value all the time. No, I decide where to give the parent my value. Show callbacks and calling functions.
But that one is not even the list is not a favorite, right?
The index is different. This is the index.
Yes, I'm not talking about the index, I'm talking about the list.
Okay, if
I
you're
wanted to use that input value from the header in the list.
yes, we are doing that, but in a different way.
Okay.
So when you call add item, you get the new text item. This is the same one that we get it from here. Click handler. We take it here. We add it to the to-dos. Concat to to-dos. You can see. And we will have it in items, the new item, and after that we pass it to the list with items. So the list itself cannot access the input value, but it can access data from it. So the parent is like coordinating. It's like you have some stuff here, you have some stuff there. You don't want to copy everything to here or everything for there. You just like coordinate. I need this piece and this piece and this. You get the idea?
You can only access it when like the list now becomes a child of header.
Yeah.
And you pass as a prop.
Exactly. So it's like header, go to the parent go to the list. Otherwise, you will have everything mixed in one place, and we don't want that. We want stuff to be separated and communicating with clear boundaries. Make sense?
Yeah.
Let's yeah. So now we can do this. It's complaining because we specify the default value and a value. So now we don't need a default value. What we can say now, if there is input value, if it's not defined, we say take the title. Like in the beginning it's defined, we take the title. So we populate it with the title. And now I will be able to type, even without a default value. Because I'm saying input value, so my edit input from the state, if it's undefined, if it doesn't exist, if it's the first time, take this instead. Make sense?
Yes.
Now, what I want is when you are typing, when you click edit again, yeah, I should bring this and update the parent. Make sense? So this one, so this is the responsible for toggling the edit. So now I have two options. I can create a separate function, or here I can say if it's switching from non-edit to edit, do this. If it's switching from edit to non-edit, do the other thing. Make sense?
Yes.
So we have two options. We can say, for example, if it's edit, means we are editing, and it will toggle to not be edited. We can save the value here. Else, it's the opposite. We're trying to start editing it.
Yes.
Do you get the idea?
Yeah.
So we can say const. You got the idea? Is edit, we do something, else we set it to, we flip it. We need to flip it anyways, but we will see. So now we want to save the value. So I will say this dot props dot update text. So the parent will give me a function to update the text. We don't have this function yet. Okay, but let's just call it here.
Okay.
Let's call it with this thing. And which one I'm editing? Which input? Because the parent doesn't care. It's like the government. There's like 5 million people in Denmark. You cannot just go to the government and say, can you give me my money? It's like, who are you? You give them your CPR, and they will say, okay, you are this citizen. Because the government deals with a lot of people. The list is the same thing. The index.js is the same thing. It has a list of to-dos. So if you say, update description, yeah, but who are you? Which one to update? So we need to pass the description and the index. From where we get the index, it's item.id. So we can say here this dot props. I will not use destructor here because probably I need it once. Well, let's use destructor. So we want the update text. Okay? And we want the item. We want the ID from inside the item. So we can go and take it from the item. Remember, we can do nested distraction. Go inside. Keep going inside. Is this clear? Of course, this function is not defined yet. And it's coming from props.
Which means you have it on in the
Right.
index.
But we still don't have it.
Yeah.
But it's yes coming from there. Is this logic clear a bit?
Yeah.
We take the is edit. We check if it's so when we toggle edit means like we want to change from edit to not edit and from not edit to edit we toggle. So if we check if we say toggle edit and we are editing means that we want to go to the non-edit mode to the false. Before doing that we say update text and we clear. Make sense?
Yeah.
Let's define this function. We go to the index. We say update to do text. We change the name here, but we can change it in the props. We can change the name easily in the props because it's like an option. So here I would say console.log item ID. I think it was 2, no? 2. And the new text. Item ID, new text. Are we good? We are good. Update text, update to new text. We want to pass it to the list. And the list will pass it to the item. It's like the grandpa. And pass it to the parent. And you get the idea? So I can say here, update to new text. This not update to new text. Make sense? But we called it here update to update text. So we will just call it here update text. We go to the list. We get it from here. We pass it again to the item. It's like we go down.
Yes.
Is it clear?
Yeah.
Where we are going down? We can keep going down for like 60 like nested levels. And technically now we have access to the update text. Let's console.log here. I sense a crazy error. Update text is not defined. Let's say this dot props. Just print props. We will see it inside. So we have items, we have update text.
Yes.
Good, and it's a function. Are we good? Yes. Let's now. I always make this mistake. I do it like that. Again. Let's delete this piece. Yeah. So now let's click edit. Nothing will happen. Why? Because in the toggle edit, this edit was false.
Yes.
So we go to the else and we switch it. This is what happened. Now if we click edit again, it's true and it's about to flip to false. Let's do that. We have one and we have undefined. Why it's undefined?
Yes.
Because before editing, edit
Oh,
input
yeah.
value is undefined.
Undefined.
But if we will do this, we close it again, we say edit, we have it now. But let's do something, just a second. Let's also do this. So we don't need that else because we need to switch it,
Yes.
regardless of anything.
Yeah.
But we only do some logic if it's true. Okay?
Yes.
So we edit, we're switching it now.
Yeah.
So we say edit, we change this, edit, and we have the text.
Yes.
Make sense?
Yeah.
So now we can do something. Now we have the text, so we can change the input action. Because it's receiving the ID and the input value inside index.js here. You could see that. Yes? All of you. So we can do the same thing that we do for toggle. We can just do it the easy way. We can literally copy this. Just to not confuse you with autoconsole. So we can say if ID is equal to item ID, we say text equal to the new text. Is this clear?
Yes.
Smart, if it's this one, change its text. Otherwise, just keep returning. So now, let's say edit, we do this, we type Yunus, it didn't change. Interesting. Let's debug. So, do we, yeah, let's put, oh, sorry, it's not this one. Yes, let's debug. Let's put a console.log here with these two. And let's put a console.log for the new items. I'm sensing something, but let's close the header. Access to the list. We have that's very good. Let's go to React. Header list item. Item has a state of is edit false and true. Make sense? We say edit. We flip it to this. We change. Now we should see some console.logs. Yes, we see. So we have this text. So we are receiving the correct text. This is what I'm sure about. We are not receiving the correct text. Now let's say it's 1. We wanted to edit this one. It's title. But just like learn how to debug like step by step. Was the problem inside the list? Am I not calling this correctly? Or was the problem in this? I'm not receiving correctly. Or it's inside this. But now we scoped the problem into a specific area to know what to debug. So now it's saying that title. Maybe we will see another error. We don't know. Let's keep checking. This is a progress. We say edit, type Yunus or something. We say edit, and we have the edit text.
Yes. Woohoo!
No one is excited.
No reaction.
No, everyone is excited. I'm sorry, I thought the law was like
Maybe it's amazing that I sat 1 week like this, and then you see this sort of experience.
It's not really about experience, honestly. It's just like I'm familiar with React. You get the
That's
idea?
the experience.
Yeah, I'm just, it's not that like no, but some people like they read from experience as like having like imaginary skills. You know what I mean? Like he's more experienced, he hasn't been. No, it's just more knowledge of React. If you will sit the same amount of time that I said with React, maybe less, maybe you're more smarter than me, you will maybe exceed me. So it's not really about like imaginary knowledge. It's just like I've did this for almost 3 years. So it's like this is
Yeah, that's good.
When we,
Once you know once you know it comes with experience, that means you can also have it.
yeah,
Because it doesn't come with talent.
yeah, exactly. There's nothing here about talent.
and what about when we edit that input text, some of videos I have seen, they're using the reference. Should we put the state for that file or use the reference for inputs?
I don't like to use reference for input unless you have really good reasons. Like really good reasons. Which we don't have for this.
Okay, and set state again and
Yeah.
it's making so much code, but reference is the bit. And
It's not making too much code. It's making
I don't know behind the
it's
scenes.
making the code more explicit.
Yeah,
You have
More
clear
explicit.
control about what's happening.
input, yes.
This is the idea. So if you want to hook some logic, if you want to validate this before updating it, if you want to have an if else, you can easily do that. So your code scales, you can extend it easily because it's clearer and it's not dependent on like some imaginary knowledge. But once you use ref, you are hooked to a specific way to do it, which is wrong. So you use ref if you are really so don't say like I will use the way that gives me less code. Use the way that actually makes more code and it's more explicit. Of course, not more code to be like crazy more code, but your code should be explicit. For example, now even when debugging, it's easy because you can see this we're getting the value and we're passing, you know,
State.
yeah, we're setting because it's just a string. There's nothing wrong about it.
And again, correct me if I'm wrong. And if you using ref, you again like accessing the DOM.
Yeah.
And the philosophy is like when you don't need to,
Yes.
you don't do that.
You're
Yes,
right.
yes.
Okay.
That's the React way of accessing the DOM.
Yeah.
Instead of like document dot submit.
So to use it, you need to have like really like you need to have like really good arguments.
Yeah.
Like really good arguments. So once in our app we did it because so we wanted the scroll to be from so we want when you scroll outside to scroll another element inside. So we want this block element to be scrollable inside this small component in the side here. And we tried a lot of time to do it without ref, but we didn't with ref at the end. Because it was just clear but we know that if we want to touch this code, we need to refactor it. We cannot scale it this way with ref. So use it when you are really stuck, like really, like you need to have really good arguments, honestly, to use it. And even in the React doc, they say that. Ref is really used if you want to go outside of React, as she said. If you want to go outside of React, use ref. But yeah. Any questions?
Dang.
Yeah. Any questions?
What is the reactor?
Ref, I don't want to go into details about it, but
Just
if you do ref, my ref, and you say const my ref, like this, or let's create ref. I don't want to
Yeah.
talk about that. So now you can say my ref. You can manipulate this div. You can say query selector. You can say append child. So ref is a way to access a specific div that is rendered or specific DOM element that is rendered by React. It's a bit hacky.
if it's fucking.
Yeah, it's not hacky. Yes, it's hacky the hacky way. Yes, it's hacky. Any question about what we did here? No? We understand everything? Everything's clear? Seriously? Should be confusing. Is this clear?
You send a link to the
I was at the end. If there is no more questions, we can go for that.